You're listening to the Word Slinger Podcast, episode 53, Prosperity for Writers with Honoree Quarter. Prosperous.
Writing a book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-Day Author today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger. Thanks again for tuning in. It's another fun-filled week of us just chatting, hanging out together. I kind of dig that. Hope you dig it too. You may have noticed robo-announcer, robo-reader at the beginning of the show talking about 30-Day Author. And this is kind of appropriate, and I'm glad I'm actually getting to time it this way because 30-Day Author is my new book that outlines the process that I actually use myself for the process that I used for developing a daily writing habit, but also for knocking out a book in 30 days, 15 days, however many days I want, or 365 days, whatever works best for you. There's no shame in that game in either direction. So one of the things that makes it kind of apropos, though, is we've got Honoree Quarter on the show today, and she actually wrote the foreword for that book. So after you listen to this episode, rush right out and pick up your copy of 30-Day Author. And, I'm working on a web presence and a whole bunch of other nifty tools for that, but you can get the book right now as an ebook on any platform, not just Amazon, but because I decided to go wide with this launch. So you can go Amazon, iBooks, Barnes & Noble's, Nook, Kobo, anything. So get out there and search for it. If you can't find it, let me know. You can also sign up for building the mailing list now for that audience specifically. If you go to kevintomlinson.com/30dayauthor, you can hop in and sign on the list, get on the list early, and you get a free bonus for that when you do that right away. Now, I believe I may have hyphenated that, which is kind of a dumb thing to do, but I'll put a link in the show notes. So if you try 30-Day Author, in fact, I know I hyphenated it, do 30-day-author. I don't know why I did that. That was a dumb move. Maybe I'll fix that later. There will be a website. I'm working on that now. I decided to go with WordPress for this site, so there's a little learning curve for me because I've always used Squarespace for all my sites. So there's a little bit of a shift there from the norm. So anyway, at any rate, pick that up. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy Honoree's foreword, and I'm glad that she did that. I'm grateful that she did that. Thank you, Honoree, if you're listening. I really appreciate it. It sort of legitimizes the book for me for some reason. Now, Honoree, I met at the Colony Summit, the Sterling and Stone Colony Summit, which you've heard me talk about before. And that turned into a sort of pivotal moment for me as an author, because I was kind of going in the wrong direction. And here's what's really, I guess we'll call it ironic. I mean, I was actually working on 30-Day Author when I went to that conference and discovered that I was on the wrong track. So what I did was stop everything I was doing, jump right back into fiction, and wrote more fiction, because that's really what I want to do. That's my mountain, as Neil Gaiman would say. And, Honoree was one of the people who kind of inspired me to do that. After talking to everyone there, looking around and noticing that everyone was doing what they wanted to do, they were having some success with it, and then doing my little hot seat and figuring out, I'm on the wrong track here. It really changed everything for me. And I jumped into a whole new way of thinking about my writing, about my career. And Honoree was actually part of that. Now, I did eventually write that book, of course, because now it's available. But I wasn't ready to write it then. And I think that's a big lesson. It's something I think that everyone can learn. Sometimes the things that we need to do in our lives, there's a timing for them. As the Bible says, I mean, for everything there is a season, right? So that wasn't my season. That wasn't the season for the 30-day author at that point. That came later. And I'm glad it did, actually. At the time, it felt like I'd blown it and I was having to start over. And I was starting, with a disadvantage. But actually, I think it was the perfect time for me to do exactly what I did. So now, after that, I ended up participating in the very first Prosperity for Writers course that Honoree gave. And I was honored to be a part of that. I was honored to be included in her book, Prosperity for Writers, which we'll talk about in the show. You can also find links to that in the show notes. But enough of me. Enough word slingerness. Let's get into the actual interview. I think you're going to love this one. This is all about attitude. It's all about preparing yourself, getting yourself ready, and looking out for the abundance that's all around you. And I know that gets kind of a bad rap. And I think the biggest reason it gets a bad rap is because people misunderstand what it's for. So listen in on this, then go read Prosperity for Writers, and then go read 30-Day Author. And I think you're going to see a little bit of a pattern there. And I think you're going to see how this is all very practical and how you can apply it to your life. Now, if you are looking to write a book, this is the right episode to tune into. So let's get started on that. I won't delay any longer. Thanks for tuning in, and here is Honoree Quarter. Hey everybody, now today I'm talking to somebody that I'm a big fan, actually, and I've had the honor, actually, and the privilege of doing a little bit of work with her, spending some time with her. I'm talking to Honoree Quarter, who is an author, and I'm going to throw this in there, Honoree, even though you said it as kind of a joke. She's a professional ass kicker, and she's out for some global conquering, and I recently participated in her Prosperity for Writers course, in which ended with a book, which I have read and enjoy. I even read the parts that I wasn't in, so that was cool. But Honoree is she's out conquering the world with this stuff, and I'm really glad to have you here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be with you. Really. Thank you so much.
So just to get it out of the way, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Prosperity for Writers. How did the whole thing come about?
So we were at that same colonist summit.
Yes.
And you were in the room when some people were saying, I am not making any money from my published works.
Yeah.
And I'm doing things to pay the bills, but I am not making money from my writing. And part of that was because they didn't really think it was possible.
Yeah.
And it was all I could do to not go, wait, I know you can. So with anything that I do, I like to test my results on other people to make sure that I'm not random.
Yeah.
So I taught the Prosperity for Writers class, and there were 12 of you in the class, and out of the class came the book.
Yeah, and it was kind of a direction changer for me. You hit me at the right time, I'm going to say, because at that summit was when I realized that I was going in completely the wrong direction for what I wanted to do with my career. And it was, I left that summit. I left early, actually, if you remember, that last day. And I wish I hadn't in some ways, but I was glad I did, because that 2-hour drive back to Houston gave me a lot of time to think about what I had just discovered. And your course came along at the perfect time to help me jump on these new ideas and really move forward quickly. So I appreciate that. Thanks for that.
Well, but back at you for a bit, because it takes a person who's willing to commit and look at their limiting beliefs and eradicate their limiting beliefs. And none of us want to be made to feel wrong. So it's, well, gosh, maybe I haven't been believing in myself. And what does that say? And being willing to do that work, which if doing personal development were sexy and easy, then everybody would do it.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of courage to examine oneself and make some changes. But I always say that the going through the tunnel sucks, but on the other side, the light is not an oncoming train. It's actually some good stuff. Yeah.
Why do you think it's so difficult for people to work on self-development?
Well, it's again, like I always say, it's like putting the mirror to millimeters from your face. You see all of the flaws and all of the yucky. I think it's easier just to pretend, oh, everything's perfect, everything's fine. Because in order to make a change, that process, that metamorphosis or that transformation seems to, for some reason, be painful.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure why.
I don't really know
Actually,
why either. I mean, I will say I've always been somewhat addicted to self development, which you would think would result in a lot more progress in my career and life. But
well, who knows where we would be if we weren't addicted
well,
to it.
true, that's true, and I feel like I can. I've heard your story, and we share some common traits. We're both in Texas, which to some parts of the country is a hindrance all its own, but we we have similar backgrounds. You went through a lot more than I did, but I mean, I was bounced around from home to home when I was a kid, and from town to town, and finally ended up raised by my grandparents. And so there are kind of those humble beginnings there, but I'm I I'm glad that I got on that route of self development. I mean, what was it? And I just kind of glossed over your entire history, but what was some of what brought you to this?
So I wasn't raised by my grandparents. I was
That's
raised by
true.
wolves.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to imply that was the thing that was the
No, I
same.
was just being funny. I was like, oh, mine's better. Oh, my upbringing was far more. We don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I was raised by advanced degreed professional parents for a while, and then
Hmm.
that didn't go so well. And so I ended up living in a foster home and then a children's home and then was on my own at 16. And so the impetus for me to work on myself was the desire not to have good self esteem. It was to not have bad self esteem.
Yeah.
It was just to get to zero. It's kind of like when you discover Dave Ramsey and he's like, you're going to be debt free. It's not like you're going to be a millionaire,
Yeah.
right? He's like,
Yeah.
you're just not going to owe anybody anything. Like,
Yeah.
let's just get to zero. And that was my very first goal was I wanted to just kind of have a clean slate.
Yeah. Yeah. And that so you managed to do that despite turbulent waters, we'll say,
Correct.
early in your
Yep.
life.
Yep.
How did you manage to pull it all together?
I just started working on myself. I think I don't know what the higher power is
Yeah.
because I think the more I think I know, the less I actually know. But I was guided by something to
Yeah.
discover um, manifesting the universe, God, whatever, right? Whatever that higher power is that
Yeah.
is that when we are open to it, it blesses us in
Yeah.
whatever way. And so I discovered some books and some teachers and some mentors that don't know me from Adam, but I sure do know all their stuff.
Yeah.
And I chose to believe them when they said, if you want something, you just have to be willing to work hard enough on yourself and at what you want in order to have it. And there's the only thing standing in the way of you is you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can buy into some of that. And I just have never given up. And so I think some people that I have known me the better part of my life just kind of scratch their heads and go, how did that happen? But
Yeah.
I
I can
go,
see that.
right? I mean, I think for anyone who's a success, there are some people that go, how on earth did that happen? Because they didn't think that I had potential or because they didn't feel like doing the work. And so they're irritated that I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of all that kind of stuff. So
So was there like one like overall influential book or person or magazine article or something that sparked all this and just made you decide to jump in and seek personal development?
well, so I went to I don't even know I mentioned The Power of Positive Thinking is a book by
Yeah.
Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. And some people go, yeah, like you did. And other people are like, nope, I've never heard of that. And I just kind of like when I mentioned Think and Grow Rich and people go, nope, I've never heard of that book. And I'm like, for real?
That is kind of unbelievable, actually.
I know it happens more often than you would think. And so I read The Power of Positive Thinking. I happen to live in New York City. I happen to be 2 blocks from Marble Collegiate Church, which was Dr. Peel's church. And so I went to my first Sunday at that church was the very first Sunday that or it was his last Sunday. It was the Sunday they were
Oh,
celebrating 60
bummer.
years, 60 years of him being in service. And so a new minister had taken over and they were coming to retire him officially. And so they were doing this big ceremony. And I read that book and it was just so full of, and I couldn't begin to tell you what it says right now, right? But it was just so full of something that made my spirit feel hopeful.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I had hope. And so I would go every Sunday to Marble Collegiate Church and I would sit behind Marla Maples, who then was dating Donald Trump, who was married to Ivanka, who sat below us
Okay.
in church. And I would take in the lesson, and the lessons were always, they weren't churchy to me. And I don't mean any disrespect by saying that, but it was never, you better behave yourself or you're going to burn in hell. It
Yeah.
was, you are a child of God, and if you want it, pray for it and work for it, and you can have it, right?
Yeah.
It was an empowering message for me, and it filled up my spirit and gave me hope and possibility, and it allowed me to feel good about myself in spite of.
Yeah. Yeah. And you clearly ran with it.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Kevin. I mean, it's not, everyone goes, oh, overnight success. It's like, well, if by overnight you mean 365 times 25, then yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just because you guys aren't counting the nights when I wasn't a success.
Exactly right.
How do you,
all of that building on one another kind of success. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's what is it? Success is what? I lost it. I had a cool little aphorism I was going to throw at you, but now it's gone. Success is a wave, not a whatever, something. So I'll come up with it later and put it in the show notes. So all the prosperity portion of your business, that's just one aspect of your career. I mean, how do you define your career? Like, how do you think of your career?
Well, I think I am a coachpreneur, speakerpreneur, and authorpreneur.
Okay.
So I started as a coach, and to get business as a coach, I started speaking. And then one day someone called me and said, we would really like for you to come and speak to us, but we only have $3,500. And I said, I think that'll work.
Yeah.
That could work.
I've had that.
And so then I was a professional speaker. By God, I just, hopped on that horse and rode it, and then started charging for speaking engagements. And then Mark Victor Hansen said, everybody's a coach and a speaker, honey.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to write a book. So I wrote a book, and it's not ever as simple as that. But I wrote my first book upon Mark Victor Hansen's suggestion, and did not fancy myself an author or writer person for quite some time,
Yeah.
because still working through the noise, still working through the head noise,
Yeah.
the head static, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of have three different distinct parts of my business, but I think they're all part of the same band.
Yeah.
Right? And they all go together, and that means no 2 days are the same, which is great. And I get to help people in different modalities and in different ways and from different platforms, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
To me, because I think my purpose, right? If it's bigger than my business, right? Then what is my purpose? I think my purpose was to go through. I just multiplied it. It's like 9,100 days. 365 days times 25 years is 9,100 days. So I think my purpose for going through all of the things that I have been through in my life is to help someone not go the long way home.
Yeah. That's a worthy purpose. I mean, and I think that's you've built a business around that, but I mean, it is kind of a calling, right? And it's like a mission calling almost.
Yes, I don't look at it like it's strictly business or I'm only in it for the money. I look at it as I'm doing well from doing good,
Yeah.
and that's my driving force.
So
always.
what is your favorite aspect of your business?
Oh, well, helping people.
Okay.
So it's fun because when you first start doing anything for a really long time, it seems like nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Like I planted the seeds, and where are the people? I built
Right.
it, and where are they? They, like by the end of the movie, there was a line of cars.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come. There's no line of cars. Like,
Yeah.
so what, there must be some flaw in the system, but now I get more tweets, right?
Yeah. That movie has done so much damage for marketing thinking in the world.
It has. Yes, because the implied message was build it and they will come quickly.
Yeah.
Not it's going to take you a very long time to build something that will be amazing eventually. Prepare for a long voyage and take snacks with you.
Right. Right.
That was too
Bring a
long
lunch.
movie title. Yeah, pack a lunch.
Yeah.
Pack 6 months of MREs because you're going to be out there a long time. Yeah, I think that was a bad movie title. That would not sell. So I think the concept is good, but I think the expectation people have, especially in an instant coffee microwavable drive-through society, is that I just have to do it for 5 minutes, and then when it doesn't work, they quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when someone says, I want to build something similar to what you've built, I'm like, great, I can definitely shorten your cycle. I can save you lots of money and I can help you make money faster. But by faster, I mean not 9,000 days.
Right. Possibly 8,900 days.
Possibly, yes. Possibly it could take that long. But the thing is one of the things that Tony Robbins said, and when you said who was the kind of a mentor, right? So I started with Norman Vincent Peale and graduated to Tony Robbins, or not graduated, but went on my evolution included Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins says, where will you be in 5 years? Well, in 5 years, where will you be in 5 years? It's like 5 years is going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
might as well work on the thing that you want to work on because the 5 years is going to pass anyway. And someone says, well, Honoree, when was the best time for me to start something? And I was like, I think 22 years ago.
Yeah.
But then, someone was lamenting to me yesterday, like, I don't have anybody on my list. I came late to that party. And I said, well, you came late to the party, but there's some people not even at the party.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't even know there is a party.
Right.
So
Right.
you're ahead of them, right? So
Yeah.
there's some people that started building a list in 2006.
Yeah.
And we look at those people and go, wow, that's amazing. But they kind of just, did it just a little bit before you did. So their list is a little bit bigger than yours is. And you can learn from them and they can shorten your sales cycle and help you to achieve that a little bit faster.
Right. I think people are probably a little too hard on themselves. I know I was always too hard on myself when it came to like building the list. I mean, because what would I have known? 10 years ago, I probably could have built a phenomenal list, but how would I have known that I would need a list? Until I needed it, I didn't know I needed it.
Correct. And I also think that something no one talks about, so I'm probably going to go straight to HE double hockey sticks, is I know a lot that people inflate their stuff. That they will say, oh, I have this, or I do this, or I make this, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is a movie set. Like the front of the house looks amazing, but if you walk around to the back, it's being held up by like 3 2x4s.
Yeah.
So you can't always take what someone says as like gospel and then beat yourself up because you weren't their level of genius because they can't make their car payment. Like for real. I hear that. I know of that a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think someone needs to say it. So I said it, that someone will go, I have 1 million people on my list. No, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm a millionaire. No, you're not. I mean, I was having this conversation with someone last week. Someone runs around and they're like, oh, I have an 8-figure business. It's like, well, you've made 8 figures over the course of your career. An 8-figure business implies that you're making 8 figures in a calendar year.
Yeah.
That's a misrepresentation. But I find that the kids don't call each other out publicly.
That's true.
Right? It's just passed around the grapevine. And then people who buy their stuff think, oh my gosh, they're amazing. I have to give them my $2,000 or my $25,000 or whatever it is. And they don't recognize that it's kind of a house of cards and that the way they're getting their 8-figure business is by telling you they have an 8-figure business. So you give them your 7 figures.
Right.
Right. So I think it or 6 figures or 5 figures, right? Whatever it is. And I think I think people need to recognize that not everything is as it seems, and they just need to like, and what that means is not to point fingers at someone, but when you point a finger at someone and go, wow, they're amazing, you have three pointing back at yourself saying, well, I'm not all that amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And when in fact, you're probably closer to their amazing than you think.
Yeah.
And so just to kind of, just to like keep everything in context and don't be so hard on yourself is the message.
Yeah, and I think I mean, you don't want to be envious of people. Like, you want to celebrate people's successes, not
And be
envy them.
inspired by it. Yes,
Yeah.
because if there's anything that I know from being a coach is that no matter how successful someone is, they are still a someone. They are still a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
See,
still have
that's
it.
amazing. Yeah, that's been an amazing revelation, we'll say, for me. Although I always knew that, but and especially in doing this podcast, like I've talked to some really truly amazing people that you would think, some of which you would think would be completely out of reach, but they're so humble and so down to earth, you know, and they're just amazing to know, and it's been eye opening that I can
Everyone's
be
a
like
person.
them.
Everyone is truly a person. And my first revelation of that was when I was in my mid to late 20s. I joined Rotary
Mm-hmm.
in Honolulu. And in Rotary was the governor and the mayor of Honolulu and all of these very successful business owners and politicians and people that were very well, well known and esteemed in the community, military leaders and business leaders. And I was young. I thought I'm the youngest, poorest person in the room. And then I started doing stream cleanups with them and beach cleanups with them and building women's shelters
Yeah.
and like serving alongside of them. And then I found out that they were just human beings. They just had achieved something.
Right.
And when people achieve especially monetary success, people go, ooh,
Yeah.
they must be magical. And it's like, oh, they're kind of not magical.
Right. Right.
They're kind of just human like everybody else. They just have achieved something that you haven't achieved yet, but
Yeah.
they're just people just like everybody else, for
Well,
sure.
you mentioned Tony Robbins, and I know that that's one of his sort of, precepts, I guess, that if a human being can do it, and you are a human being, then you can do it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I know there's more to it than that. I mean, there's the hours of practice, or there's the contacts you make, or, all these, there's a lot of aspects to getting there. I mean, just because, I don't know, Michael Jordan's human and I'm human doesn't mean I can dunk like Jordan,
Sure. Well, sometimes there are things that are out beyond your control, man, woman, tall, short,
Yeah.
right? There are things that are beyond your control, but I pretty much have figured out that the secret to success
Mm-hmm.
is a two-word formula. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm got
Hard
the pen here.
work.
Hard work.
Hard work. That's it. You have to be
Yeah.
just, you know what? It's like every morning at 4:30, I'm alone in the gym.
Yep.
Shocking. Right? It's like
Yeah.
there's not a big line.
Yeah. Let me tell
There's
you
not a
though,
line for the treadmill.
I just sensed like a whole bunch of listeners' hearts just drop out of their chests when you said hard work. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard work. It's all you make your own luck,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, I wanted to know Sean Platt and Johnny B. Truant.
Yeah.
So I paid the entry fee to go to their conference.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't hope that I ran across them.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Like they're having a conference. I want to know them. I will pay the price of admission. I made my own luck
Right. Yeah.
by going and meeting them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and you. So how about that? How about them?
And you. Yeah, actually, I think I got the better end of that deal, actually, with you meeting me. So I appreciate
I don't
that.
know. I don't know. I think everyone in that room was so cool.
That was a room crammed with amazing people. And
Yeah.
I really do count that as a turning point in my career and my life. Just being in that room, and and I was talking to another person from the group this morning, saying, I went through a kind of mental crisis when I was there because I had this sudden realization, like, we had those hot seats. And I sat in that hot seat and realized I'm here for all the wrong reasons.
Ah,
I was in the right place, but I was in the wrong headspace. So it was an amazing weekend. And I'm honored to have met everybody, especially, the fact that everyone I've met there has been so very helpful. So that's a testament to going out and doing what you said, taking action and meeting these people you want to meet. You never know
Yeah.
what's going to come of it.
Who do you need to know? What value can you bring them? Not
Yes.
what can they do for you
That's
ever.
key. Yeah.
And I went to a conference to meet two people and I met 24.
Yeah.
And I'm literally like reading all of Brian Meek's book
Yeah. I
because
just had him on
I
the
totally
show.
dig, I know, I can't wait to listen to it, but I totally dig a smart person.
Yeah.
And he's clearly a wicked smart person, which
Yeah.
was evident at the conference. And so
Mhm.
I finally got a chance to read some of his fiction, and so I have all of them on my Kindle, and I just can't wait till okay, everybody, it's time to go to bed. I'm gonna go. And then they'll come in, they're like, I thought you were going to bed. It's like, well, I'm in bed. I'm just not sleeping.
No one said anything about sleeping.
No one said anything about sleeping in the bed. What do you mean? But I didn't realize I would become the fan of 22 other people.
I know it's
Right.
bizarre, right?
The funny thing is, every time I see a trailer for The Martian, I'm like, and my husband's like, "What is the matter with you? You don't even like science fiction." It's like two things, right? Science is dumb, and fiction. I like don't write fiction. So he's like, "What is the matter with you?" And I said, "Well, I got to learn the story of Andy Weir
Yeah. That.
and Podium Publishing and all that. So now I'm kind of a super fan of those
Mhm.
guys, and I'm so excited for that whole process. Even though we have no dog in that fight,
Yeah.
right? People going to see The Martian or buying The Martian doesn't affect us in any way. I'm just real
Right.
excited about it. So
No,
anyway,
but
I think the bottom line is you make your own luck. So if you
yeah.
want something bad enough, you'll become the type of person that does the type of things that gets you the success that you want if you want it bad enough. And
Exactly.
here's the thing: I heard someone say that they worked half the night for 2 years in order to have their success. They
Yeah.
worked full time, and then it was another overnight success, and it was
Yeah.
like, well, you didn't see all the stuff that went into that. So if you're in the middle of that, if you are at your 4 o'clock in the morning and it's darkest before dawn, like hang in there, the light is coming.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And that's that. See, and I think that's probably the important message is that here you are. I don't know an indie author who isn't working their can off trying to do this, right?
Yeah.
And if I did, I mean, actually, that's not true. I've known plenty who maybe did a book or started a book or whatever, but they've never, once the work hit, it was over. Or it wasn't over. It's just so daunting they put it aside. It's actually kind of understandable, but that
Oh, yeah.
idea of you're in the middle of it. It's 4 a.m. You just spent the whole night, I don't know, formatting your manuscript, only to have to start over because you screwed up a page or something.
There.
I've been there. You know what's funny? I'm there every time I do a manuscript. I don't know why. I always have some glitch, but that
It's
encouragement.
not just me. I'm not the only person that uploads 4 versions before it's the right one.
It's not just you.
Good
Trust me.
grief.
Trust me. We happen to know. So I haven't used him yet, but Garrett Robinson does the
Yeah.
layout for the Sterling and Stone guys, and I'm always tempted to call him up when I'm having a problem. Like, dude, help me out. I've screwed this up, but I don't want to bug him.
I've had him do Prosperity for Writers, which is why it looks so pretty.
There you go. See, but you're utilizing those contacts. That's
Like I said, I didn't realize I wasn't going to meet 2 people. I was going to meet 24.
yes, yeah.
Yep.
So okay, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's putting their foot on the path? They're wanting to start building their dreams and working towards a goal like this. Whether it's they want to be an author or they want to start any kind of business, anything that's their passion. Where do they start?
Well, I'm probably not going to say anything they haven't heard before, but I'll validate what others have said
Okay.
because we all say it for kind of the same reasons, right? So build a list.
Build a list. All right.
Build a list. Yeah, just you know what? And I tell this to my clients who are like I call them garden variety professionals, and then they get all their feathers all fluffy, and that's like the bankers and the lawyers and the insurance providers that I coach, right?
Yeah.
And I will say, when you get an advertisement from Dick's Sporting Goods or from Panera Bread or from Banana Republic, you're on their list. And they'll go, oh, and I'll be like, you need a list.
Yeah.
You need to market. And they're like, what? This is groundbreaking. But whatever you're going to do, you need a list of people who want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And so start building that.
Yeah.
22 years ago. And if you didn't, then start today,
Yeah.
right? Get an Aweber or a MailChimp or whatever works for you and
So,
just start inputting those names. That's like the first thing is like you have to have an audience and
mhm.
you want to dig your well before you're thirsty.
So what do you recommend for starting that list? Like, what's the very first step? How do they get the people on the list? I have
Um,
my own answers to that, but I really want to hear what you're doing
you
because
mean
you're
the technical pieces?
well, no, like you. All right, I've gone to Mailchimp or listeners author.email, and I've created my mailing list, and there's no one in it. How do I start adding people to that list? Where do I find them?
Well, they're the people whose business cards you have on your desk,
Yeah, yeah,
in your
yeah,
briefcase, in the center console of your car. Right? Most people have a stack of business cards on their desk and they're like, I just don't know what to do with these. I am the double opt-in
yeah.
magnetic attraction marketing person. I'm
Hmm.
not the, ooh, I met you one time, I add you to my list
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
So I will send, when I meet someone, I will send them my most recent newsletter that's applicable to them. And I will say, I communicate with people on a weekly basis. And here's a sample. Here's last week's newsletter. If you'd like to subscribe to the list, go here or just reply and I'll add you.
yeah, yeah,
Easy,
yeah,
right? It's all I believe in permission. So I'm pretty sure you have the same philosophy, but I am definitely a double opt-in permission relationship building type of person.
yeah,
So that would be the first thing.
yeah. So start asking. Really, is
Yeah,
what you're
start
saying. Yeah,
asking. Just say, I'm working on some really cool stuff and I want to stay in touch with you. Do you mind if I add you to my newsletter list? And I'm going to be in touch with you every however often.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to blow up your email. I'm going to add value to you. And it's funny because I had a reader read Prosperity for Writers, doesn't know me from Adam, wrote to me, said, I made my first money between pages 16 and 33 or something. And I just
Very
wanted to let
nice.
you know that I'm really enjoying the book must be magical. And I was like, oh, it absolutely must be magical. And I said, he asked me something else, and I said, well, I have the course in case you're interested. And if you want a discount, then here's the link and here's the most recent newsletter. And he wrote back and he's like, I'm in. Thank you so much. And so that's what you want,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's not about me, it's about you and the people that you're building relationships with, those thousand fans or those super fans or whatever you want to call them, those
yeah.
people, whenever you release something, they're like, woohoo, something new. And I write in different verticals, and there are people that have read all my books, even if the books don't mean anything to them really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are super fans. That's what you want. I think there's like four of them, but yeah, like again, full disclosure, like it sounds like it's a big deal, but it's, I have a few people, probably a dozen people that have said, I read everything you write. And I just think, why,
Yeah,
why would you read a book on divorce? You've been happily married for 20 years. Anyway, so it's letting people know that you have it and giving them the option to join in
yeah,
and building that one. And when I first started, it was, ooh, I got a subscriber,
yeah,
just like I got a book sale. And I remember thinking at one point when I knew ebooks were going somewhere, I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if I could make $100 a month? I would be $1,200 a year and I would just leave it in that account. And then I could have Christmas.
yeah. Having Christmas is nice.
But like having extra money for Christmas, because I buy Christmas gifts all year long. I actually got something for my daughter last night.
Yeah,
Like I was like, well, yeah, we're not buying anything. And then I was like, here's my credit card, just ring it up and set it aside and I'll come back later. Because I don't want to, I'm not that last minute person.
yeah,
Right. But I like the idea of like, ooh, I'm going to do that. And now if I only made $1,200 in a year, I think I would be really depressed. But it's that progression. It was like, oh, well, if I could make $1,200 a month.
yeah,
Oh, what if I could make $2,500 a month and $30,000 a year? Oh, what if this could happen? Oh, what if this could happen? And then all along the way, meeting people that are like for real disclosing their real income, very inspiring, and seeing the kind of the sky's the limit. It's like whatever you can believe you can achieve if you're willing to work for it.
yeah, yeah,
And that first step is building that list. And then the other piece of advice is recognizing that it's going to take longer than you want it to. It's going to
yeah,
be harder than you think it is. And the investment of your money and your time and your blood and your sweat and your tears is going to be more than you can conceive.
yeah. Yeah.
But don't give up. Don't be the person that writes 3 novels, publishes them, they don't become overnight successes turned into a movie, and so you give up.
Yeah. Can I just say that that's who I was until about
What?
oh yeah, I
Okay.
know, hard to believe now.
Who
You
is
know,
this?
24 books later, kind of tough to believe. And I mean, I put out that the first 3 books I wrote took me almost 6 years to publish all 3, and I was that guy. Like I was so disillusioned when I put out the first one, and I had promised I would write 3 books, so that really kind of nailed me to a wall. Like I got to do it, or I'm gonna be an idiot on top of a failure. But yeah, I was that guy. Yeah, totally.
Well, but I don't know that when you were going through that 6 years, and so I think we were kind of in the same category. There wasn't the internet. There were not podcasts to listen to. I
Yeah,
remember when I first found the self-publishing podcast,
yeah,
and they were saying, it's a book a week, and we have all these different things, and we're public, and it was like, what? Really?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, what? Oh my gosh, there are people that are doing this? That's really cool.
yeah.
And so now I'm like a crack addict for podcasts.
Yeah, me too.
Like
Yeah.
I listen to all of them all the time.
Yep.
And it's so inspiring to me when I hear someone telling their story because I know if I can do it, you can do it. If you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And so, but how many people have we heard of, met, known, know right now that have been working on their novel for 5 years because we have been trained as a society that just like making money from writing is hard, that actually writing is hard.
Yeah.
It's this hard, grueling,
Yeah.
soul testing,
Yeah. You have to hate it
spirit
while you're doing it.
deadening. Yes. And
Yeah.
but there's this random guy, Stephen King, who can write a book in a weekend, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a unicorn. Nobody else can be like him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's interesting that there are so many people that are saying quality is not equated to the time it takes.
Yeah.
You can crank out a bunch of books. Monica Leonelle with her 22 books this year.
Yeah.
Such a
Exactly.
star.
Yeah.
And but it's like Roger Bannister running the 4 minute mile. Oh, your heart will explode. Oh, you'll die on the track if you try to do it. And then he did it, and everybody went, "Oh, well, he did it. He's still alive. Let's go. Let's do this."
Yes. Yeah.
And so, right, it's like the dam is being opened because people are starting to recognize that what they have been sold, this bill of goods, is a bill of BS, and they don't have to take 6 years to write.
Right. Yeah.
They
I used to believe that. It seemed perfectly normal to me. Actually, it's a funny story, and I've told this before on the show, but I was going through a bunch of my old journals at a time when I was really desperate to finish the third and final book in that first series, and I wrote my goals, and one of my goals was I will find 2 hours a week to write, and and now I look back at that like I was only going to find 2 hours a week to write. Like, I write so much. 2 hours is a slow day for me now.
Yeah.
So it's
Yep.
pretty amazing. Yeah. How all that changes.
Yes.
Your perspective changes.
Your perspective. Well, it was like I came upon a screenshot from 2010 of my Kindle book sales.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a screenshot of my 2013 book sales.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, aha, there has been progress. But it's like looking at your children.
Yeah.
If you see your kids every day, but you don't take a second to look at a picture of them from 5 years ago, you might just think they've looked this way the whole time.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And
You don't recognize your progress.
I will admit, I mean, and I built a large portion of my career previously on perception, right? I wanted to look bigger than I was. And it was just something I started doing when I was in radio years ago, and then it just escalated. So it was kind of, I had to come to reality, a couple of years ago when I realized that I'm not making what I want to make. I'm still not making what I want to make. I mean, I'm not making enough to do this work full time yet. I'm still doing client work, but I'm getting closer every day.
Yep.
And I think part of that was kind of coming to grips with you're not who you are telling the world that you are. and that was causing a lot of conflict in me.
Well, nobody's life is as good as it looks on Facebook, right?
Yes, that's
That's the
true.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, people will plant, like, oh, my husband brought me flowers. It's like, well, yeah, yesterday he disclosed his affair. So, yes, of course he brought you flowers, right? I mean, like, nobody's
Yeah.
talked about the dark stuff that's happening before and after, like the selfie that they took 12 times to look perfect.
Hmm.
And so people think, oh, this is how it is all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't tend to share, or they overshare, which is then awkward. But um, you just be who you are, and
Yeah.
the more authentic you are, and the more you say, I'm still striving for, and this is what I'm working toward, it encourages the person who wasn't working toward it because they didn't know that was a thing
Right.
to work toward it.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, here are the people that inspire me, and look what they're doing. And that's why I talk so openly now about what I'm doing, because I just think if I give someone else a great idea, then I make their way easier, then that's kind of cool. And then they tell me what they're doing and it gives me an idea, and then we all win.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I've lost track of how much inspiration has come out of, like, you and I are in Slack with
Yeah.
everyone that we were in that
Yeah.
group with.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired on almost a daily basis by something that pops up in there. I can't do everything that everybody is saying,
No.
go try this, go try that. I
Oh.
don't physically have time to do everything you guys are suggesting. So it's been amazing and life-changing.
Yes. And some of those people don't have children or spouses. I'm
That's
just
true too. Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, but enough of them are kind of on the same playing field I am, that I
Yes.
trust what they're saying and I trust what they're doing.
Oh,
and
no. I'm just saying that they have more time
Yeah.
to do stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll let them
Same.
experiment, and we'll just kind of come
Well, I
along
think
after.
that's the best thing when someone says, this is what's working, and
Yeah.
they throw it in and let everyone
Yeah.
get to play too. I think that is so cool.
So, talking about inspirations, I mean, who are some of your current inspirations? We know Tony Robbins. We know he's still a player in this game. So, who do you look to when you need inspiration?
Well, I listen to all of the author podcasts.
Yeah.
And the writer podcasts and the entrepreneur podcasts and all of that stuff. I read in different modalities, right? So I've got books, I've got Kindle books, and I've got audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have something going. So right now I'm listening to The Way of the Seal
Okay.
by Mark. I think his last name is Divine. He started NavySeals.com, and he's sharing his journey about being a SEAL and then what happens after you're a SEAL. So I have a good friend of mine who's a former Marine reconnaissance officer, and I'm telling him about this book. And he said, yeah, there's a lot of mystery around that world,
Yeah.
right? The military intelligence world, especially the special forces. And I looked at him and I said, is it kind of like everything else? Like once you peel back the layers, you realize that it's not all that mysterious or magical. And he goes, I don't know, Honoree. He goes, I think that what the SEALs teach is like leadership, like be a leader of yourself and others, and don't lie, cheat, or steal, and
Yeah.
keep growing and take yourself to the next level. He's like, I don't know, is that mysterious?
To some people, that is pretty mysterious.
And I was
yeah.
like, to some people,
Politicians,
biggest-
for example.
that is the biggest mystery of all, right? But it's interesting. Like I'm fascinated by people who achieve excellence
Yeah.
in any area of their life and are willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
Those are who my heroes and my heroines are. And I recognize that everyone is human now, so I'm able to separate sometimes the message from the messenger
Yeah.
and be inspired by what people are doing, and hopefully in turn I'm able to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think by the time I shed this mortal coil, if at least one person can say they were inspired by me, then the whole thing was worthwhile.
Well, then you're done.
Yeah.
That's me.
Oh, there you go. Well, so long, everyone. It's been
All right.
a
Thanks
wonderful
so much.
life. Yeah.
Goodbye, Felicia.
It's funny. I tell people, I am prone to aphorisms, and I'll make one up just for the heck of it most of the
Yeah.
time. But I tell people now when they ask how I'm doing that I'm having my best life ever so far, and that's getting me a lot of traction right now.
Nice. Well, when I turned 40, I would say that, the first third of my life was really good.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Yeah. So now I'm turning 45 in a couple of weeks. And so it will also be the best first third of my life. I'm still in it, I've decided.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, when I hit 40, I felt pretty good about life. I actually had a whole new lease on life at that point because of, I got a pacemaker when I was 38.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. It was for a birth defect. No, not strictly because of burgers and fries. That's only been a partial contributor. But yeah, I had a birth defect in my heart, so I had a pacemaker. But it changes your perspective when suddenly you're
Yeah.
dependent on a piece of hardware in your chest. So
I think a lot of things change our perspective.
I think
Being
so
the
too.
middle generation is definitely
Yeah.
changing my perspective. Being a mom and being a daughter, right?
Hmm.
And watching my in-laws go through their health problems and going, "Oh, I better go to the gym."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to hit the gym more. Yeah. I hint taken. No.
No, I didn't mean you.
No. No. I'm just
Right,
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I never tell someone what they should be doing. I'm just talking to me.
Yeah. And you're, and
Yeah,
you, you're you have an affiliation with Hal Elrod.
I do.
Do you have any problem talking about that? I don't
Not
know.
at all. Not at
Okay.
all.
All right. Yeah, because I read Miracle Morning actually before I ever went to the summit, and then
Nice.
you show up and you're like, "Yeah, I know Hal Elrod. Would you like a book?" And you're handing these things out. I'm like, "I already own a book."
No,
Um, but yeah, why don't you tell us a little about that? Your exercise in the morning is part of your Miracle Morning, right?
correct.
Hmm.
Yep. So I do the Miracle Morning from 4:30 to 6:30. The Miracle Morning was what Hal created when he hit his rock bottom. He has two rock bottoms that he talks about
Yeah.
in the Miracle Morning book. One when he was hit head on by a drunk driver and was dead for 6 minutes. And the second time when 2008 happened, there was a little something that happened with the economy that y'all might have heard of. And he had a
Where
rough
he was dead for 6 years.
where yeah, no, where
No, no.
he went through some of the challenges a lot of people went through.
Yeah.
They lost business, lost their businesses, lost their homes, were in debt, and he went in search of the practices of the most successful people and discovered what they were and started doing them and changed his life. And now the Miracle Morning is changing the lives of lots of people.
Yeah.
And this is, an author tip is what do authors want more than anything besides book sales? We want 5-star book reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a philosophy that says if you want something, give it away.
Yes.
And I wasn't getting enough reviews, in my opinion. And so I kind of was like, Honoree, you're not eating your own dog food, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
reading books and you're not taking the time to write 5-star reviews. So how can you expect someone to do it for you if you're not willing to do it for them?
Yeah.
So I said, the next book I read that deserves a 5-star review, I'm going to give it to him anywhere I can write the review. And so I found the Miracle Morning and I wrote a review on Goodreads and a review on Amazon. And 2 days later, I get an email from Hal and he says, thank you for your review. P.S. I see you have a book series for
Yeah.
single moms. How about we talk about the Miracle Morning for single moms?
Wow.
And I said, great, let's do it. And we get on the phone, and after about 2 hours, he said, I think you're the person I've been looking for. I want to turn the Miracle Morning into a book series, kind of like Chicken Soup for the Dog Lover's Soul and
Yeah.
blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And he said, I think you have the experience with having created a book series, but I also have the executive and business coaching background.
Yeah.
And so I understand his business. I understand my business. I understand business. I understand the book business. And so we partnered. And so we've published 2 titles. We're about to do the third one later this year.
Excellent.
And so we actually, I spent an hour and a half on the phone with them today. And, we're talking about some people who are not who they seem. Well, Hal is every bit who he
Yeah.
seems and a whole lot more. Like he is just all that in a box of really good chocolate. And I, I, I really, really enjoy working with him and for him and doing the series with him. And credit the practices of the Miracle Morning. Although I was actually doing them when I read the book, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I would have written this book if I'd had the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out, and I always tease him. I'm like, yeah, you got the I was dead for 6 minutes story, right? I was just a foster kid, but no, I gotta die,
Oh my gosh.
right? So it's like, you got the best story ever.
Yeah.
So,
You
um,
win, Hal Elrod.
way to go, buddy. So, uh, I was doing all of those practices, and it's part of why things were working for me,
Yeah.
which ironically was why I had 5 books in the Single Mom series when I started talking to Hal, because I had started doing those practices. I
Yeah.
realized that my feet didn't match my lips. I wanted to be successful, and I kept meaning to listen to audio programs or kept meaning to read books that would make me better.
Yeah.
But I wasn't making the time. I wasn't setting aside the time to do the personal growth because I had my story. I was a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time. And it was in 2005 when one of my friends had given me an external drive with 81 years of literally 81 years of
Wow.
personal growth material. It was literally every audio program up to that point that was ever
Wow.
developed by anybody. So it's all of Tony Robbins stuff, all of Zig Ziglar, all of Brian Tracy, all of Richard Bandler. I mean, it's every program ever. It would take me 81 years to listen to it. If I listened to all the programs continuously, like no nights, weekends, it would just, if I let the thing go for 81 years, I would be able to listen to everything.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
kept meaning to turn that sucker on. And I finally was like, you know what, Honoree, you're going to get up an hour early. You're going to go in your office. You're going to turn on the audios and you're going to take notes. And it was in that moment that things really started to shift for me.
Yeah. It's funny how
Shocking
there's
how that
always that moment. There's always that one thing that just kicked the right stone and started the avalanche.
Yep. Yep.
Well, that's fantastic. And what I'm taking from this, frankly, is that I need to write another review for Miracle Morning, and maybe I can end up writing Miracle Morning for chicken wing eaters or something. Something that I qualify for.
The miracle morning for people with pacemakers.
There you go. I took, by the way, your 5-star review advice when you gave that in the course. I'm like, duh, and so yeah, I started doing that, and I immediately, because I literally couldn't pay people to write 5-star reviews for me at the time, and now I've got one book that has nothing but 5-star reviews, which some people think might not be the greatest thing in the world, but I've got
You'll have a
reviews
hater.
coming in all the time. Yeah. Yeah. No one hates
You
me.
haven't made it till you have a hater.
Yeah, exactly. I've had one or two. I've had some folks who just didn't get my work. We'll just leave it at that. Anyway, so we're at 50 minutes. I'm 5 minutes over where I normally try to
Oh, no.
round you off. So I apologize for that. But
Oh, I had no idea. I thought we were going to do like the mega podcast.
we can keep
Yeah.
going. No, I like to give you. I don't want to soak up all your time. I know you got other stuff going on. You've been on the phone for more than 6 hours today, so we'll give you some slack.
Whatever you want to do is fine. But that is a basic tenet that if people will adopt it, it will change their lives. That and writing thank you notes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I will tell you some of the best things that have happened to me came just from expressing my gratitude about something. So that is absolutely a brilliant thing to do, and I don't do it enough. And I'm gonna. Now that we're talking, I realize I don't do that nearly as often as I should. So I have an actual reminder on my calendar, pops up once a week to remind me to go do 5-star reviews. So I'll
I
put
love
something on
that.
there for gratitude and writing thank you notes.
Yeah. Well, it works for everything.
Yeah.
The example was I wanted 5-star reviews, so I gave them away. But
Yeah.
the fastest thing, the instant gratification is the hug, right? You want to
Yeah.
hug, give one away, you get one right back. But it works with money. It works with time. It works with
Yeah.
anything, right? I have a neighbor and she makes these unbelievable gourmet cupcakes. And so I make her bread. So anytime I want cupcakes, I will just bake a loaf of bread and then go, "Are you home?"
Nice. Very nice.
Right? And so I kind of incite this reciprocity, which then means I have to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
This vicious cycle. I've limited her to Saturdays. Like she'll say, "Do you want cupcake?" I'm like, "Not till Saturdays." So
Yeah.
Saturdays is kind of like cupcake binge day here.
You and I can hang out on Saturdays.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But it really works for everything.
Yeah.
But you have to give it away first.
Yeah.
That's the trick, is it's not, and it's not with strings. It's not like, okay, I'm going to give you a 5-star review and you're going to give me a 5-star review. It's like, read a book and give a 5-star review. And so now in our community, when someone releases a book, I do the very best I can to buy their book so I can give them a verified review.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I would want someone to make me a priority
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting it from the person that I'm doing it for. I just know that it's going to come from somewhere.
No,
And
you're
it
right.
does. It's an interesting experiment. Give it a try.
Yeah, it does work. I'm here to vouch for it. I don't do it as much as I should, actually, but it does work.
Oh,
So
probably nobody does. Gosh, right? But
right.
it's the thought that counts. And I love that you have that reminder.
Yeah. Well,
But
I needed it.
well, but when I have a reminder to write my thank you notes, and every day when I put together my bullet journal, there's always somebody from yesterday I need to write a thank you note for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I just jotted that down. That's why I was pausing while you said that, because now I'm gonna put that on my calendar. Once a week to write thank
There's
yous.
things that we want, right?
Yeah.
There's the endorsements, and there's the reviews, and there's the gratitude, and all of those things. And
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. You're going to get one of these because it's automatic, right? And I don't think that necessarily takes away from the sincerity of this, but I mean, there's an email that goes out after the episode or after the interview is recorded. It's automatic, and it thanks you and says, if you know anyone else, fling them my way. And
nice.
I get I get the coolest responses to that. Like, people respond to it often as though, I guess assuming that I just sat down and wrote it that day. But they respond to it, and they're very, happy to have talked to me, and it makes me feel good, and it makes them feel good, and, it strengthens the relationship. So yeah,
Yes.
it's automated, but it's still gratitude.
Yes. And you know what? It takes, and the handwritten thank you note is my favorite.
Yeah.
It takes 3
Yeah.
minutes from
Yeah.
start to finish. It's 3 lines, and you send it within 3 days.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I constantly have my assistant, so don't be surprised when you get an email that says, what's your mailing address?
Yeah.
Right? Because people get bills in the mail. They get requests for things. They get pitches. And then you get that one envelope with handwriting on it. And you're like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. You actually open that one right away.
You do. Yes. The cable people can wait.
Oh yeah, for forever, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. The cable company can wait. The mortgage people can wait. But the handwritten note, you're like, what is this?
Read that right now.
Yeah. Then if you put something in it, even better.
Yeah, yeah. I still have the note you sent me after the prosperity course. So.
Nice. Nice. I
All
like
right.
it.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I thank you so much for being on with me. This has been fantastic. I'm glad we finally got to do this. I know it was we were going to do this a lot earlier, but
We talked about it like
yeah.
right away at the summit, and then it didn't happen for a long time.
Well,
So everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, you had courses to do and books to write, and I had books to write, and I think everything happens exactly when it's supposed to happen. So we got it at just the right time.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So thanks for being on. Everybody else, if you'll hang out until a few seconds from now, actually, and you can hear the wrap up. Probably going to be a short one since this is an hour-long interview this time, but thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you all next week. Thanks, Honoree, for being on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that was Honoree Corder. She's become kind of a good friend of mine, actually. I really enjoy talking to her, hanging out with her. We do a little bit of back and forth in Slack, and we're on a couple of Facebook groups together. She just started a Facebook group called Prosperity for Writers, which you can become a part of. You basically have to be invited in, so if you know me on Facebook, or if you go searching around, you'll probably find somebody who's on there. But if you pop in and say hello to me, and you really want to be a part of the group, I mean, I can probably invite you in. So why don't you connect to me? And then, that's self-serving. I mean, I'm serving myself with that. So, so it's all good. And like I said, I'm going to have to keep this kind of short because we already are over an hour. But just to wrap things up, definitely go check out Prosperity for Writers. She just released a new workbook this week, which this week is I'm talking to you on October 9th, I think. But the work, I haven't gotten the workbook yet. I'm going to. I'm actually I'm going to place an order for it. But the course itself, it's a good book. I'm sure she's going to offer the course again. I'm pretty certain of that. But if nothing else, pick up the book Prosperity for Writers by Honoree Quarter. And while you're there, pick up 30 Day Author, which is my book, which does feature a forward from Honoree, as well as, you get advice from guys like Scott Adams, who is the creator of Dilbert, Seth Godin, who you may have heard of. There's some big minds in there, Neil Gaiman. And because of the nature of that book, I mean, the first half of that book is a little bit sort of mindset focused as well, kind of getting you into the daily writing habit. But there's also the second half of that book, which is my actual literal formula, like an actual mathematical formula for figuring out the pattern you need to get into to write a book in as many days as you want, actually. I call it 30-day author because, frankly, I think that calling it like the 15-day or 7-day author would have gotten me some eye rolls or something. I'm not sure, actually. And besides, 30-day author sounds good. It rolls off the tongue. So, but really the reality of the whole thing is you can write a book in as little or as much time as you like. The important bits are actually that you write every day. And if you are an entrepreneur, the benefits of a book are tremendous. First of all, it's the ultimate business card. Most people will round file an actual business card, the little rectangular piece of cardboard that we've come to know as an identifying symbol of us. But the thing is, most people don't pay attention to those. And the sort of general rule of thumb is if someone hasn't contacted you via your business card within 48 hours, then they're probably never going to contact you. You've already lost that contact. So the thing about a book is, think about all the books you have. All the actual physical books you have on your shelves, the business books, the fiction, the biographies. Think of the ones that were given to you by someone. Even if you had no interest in reading that book, you've probably kept that book for years. Because that's the way books work. We have this built-in aversion to throwing away a book. Now, we may donate it, we may re-gift it, we may give it away to a friend, but we tend to hold on to that book and not destroy it. So books make the ultimate business card because if you have a book that establishes you as an expert in a field or an expert on a topic and you hand that to someone, the chances are they're going to associate you with that idea and keep that book around for good. So great tool. There's lots of other reasons, and I actually have a whole little booklet that I can give you for free. I need to associate that. Right now, that's not part of my download giveaway, but I'll make it. I'll make that part of it at some point. And if you don't get that, email me. Go to wordslingerpodcast.com. Use the contact button there, and you can actually, ask me for that free guide and the free guide that I am giving away right now, which is the Simple Daily Writing Schedule, which is also very cool, and it's also mentioned in the book. So pick up 30-Day Author today. Pick up Prosperity for Writers today. Both of those are great companion books, I think. I think they would make a great set. And, check out Honoree Quarter's work, on her website. You'll find that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been another great week. This has been a special favorite episode of mine, so I'm glad we did this. If you have questions for me or any of my guests, you can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. You can also visit me online at wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can leave me a voicemail from SpeakPipe, which is a little button that floats right on the right-hand side of the screen. Or click on the contact button there, and you can leave me an email. Any topic you like. If you got an idea for the show, if you got a guest suggestion, if you just want to ask a question or just want to chat, just let me know, and I'm here for you. So check that out. You can also tune in to me, Justin Sloan, and Nick Thacker on the Self-Publishing Answers podcast, which you can find on iTunes. Now, if you go on iTunes and you start looking for podcasts, do me one solid favor. Go and rate this show. Go into iTunes, go into Stitcher, give this show 5 stars and a nice review, because those things help me build this audience. They help me stick around so I can help you more. that's something I really truly appreciate. If you'd like to actually help this show financially, you can do that with the Patreon campaign, which there is a link on the Wordslinger Podcast website at wordslingerpodcast.com. If you click on that, I still need to redo that video. That video is old and out of date and out of sync and all kinds of issues, but we do what we can. So I'm doing this on my own, folks. So if you want to contribute financially to that, and I honestly, I love the listeners anyway. I love all you guys. And you folks who have reached out and made donations to help me keep the show running, I can't thank you enough. I mean, God bless you. This is something I do because I love doing it. Don't make a ton of money from it. I definitely don't make enough money from it to actually pay for overhead and expenses, but I come back every week because I'm hoping you're coming back every week. So take care of yourselves out there. I hope you loved this episode. I hope you got something really great out of it. Bolo, be on the lookout for all the good things, all the abundant things that are happening. Take care of yourself.